All right, back to our regular scheduled programming here. I have my lemon water and we are cheersing to that today. Hope you're having a great day out there. Grab your beverage. Cheers. We got more people who got revenge on their coworkers. So technically they're still coworkers. Yeah. I worked in a kitchen briefly, a summer job. The sous chef kept saying I was throwing away her cooking chopsticks, even though I most definitely wasn't. She would go on to berate me and call me names. I'd left a bracelet at work, and when I went to go get it, she said she didn't know anything about it. How convenient of you. I ended up going through bags of trash before finding it at the bottom. She was the only one working that morning. I'd had enough of the treatment, and on my last day, I went in and took all her cooking chopsticks and left. I walked out to a trash can in town and threw them out. Not even throwing them out like in the parking lot. No. I will drive across town, find a random garbage can and throw them in there so she will never find them. A group of us would go to lunch every week and one of the guys always figured the check? What the heck's that mean? After a while, it was obvious that he was overcharging the rest of us for his own benefit. Okay. One time I insisted on figuring out the check. I get it now. One time I insisted on figuring the check and I overcharged him. After stuttering around for a few minutes, obviously uncomfortable but unwilling to point out my math error, he pulled out his wallet and paid. He never cheated us again. Because you caught on. You caught on to his little game. And he didn't like playing when it was roles reversed. People don't often like a taste of their own medicine. That's like the best part. I work at an animal shelter and lots of dogs that come to our shelter don't have names, so we get to name them. Oh, I could never handle working at a dog shelter because if they didn't get picked or adopted, I would take them all home. I would have 85 dogs. Last week, we got a transfer of about 20 dogs from a shelter in New Mexico, all without names. It's kind of an unspoken rule that whoever bathes the dog on intake gets to name it, and it's common courtesy to not argue unless it's offensive. So my coworker named a dog Bentley because she thought it was cute. One of our really mean coworkers was really annoyed by this and said, "Can you not give our dogs basic names?" This stupid coworker has been known to give the dogs stupid names like Duper. So we proceeded to name all the dogs things like Spot, Benji, Rosie, Ruby, and Bella because F her. Duper? Listen, I get it. I thought Bentley was kind of cool. Whatever, it's a dog name. Duper? I'm picking Bentley over Duper. Hey, Dupe. Dupe's a little bit cute. Hey, Dupe. Oh. Honestly, any name with those dogs would be cute because the dog is so cute. I bartend at the airport. This happened last night and it felt absolutely glorious. The security line through TSA was wild. There is an employee line, but it's mixed in with the regular line. Hard to explain, but it's basically not any faster. After a coworker and I had already been waiting 25 minutes, we finally hit the front of the line. Two employees apparently thought they were more important than everyone else and cut in front of us. I was furious. I remembered their faces. We have hot grab-and-go burgers and sandwiches at my store, and what we don't sell at the end of the night, we usually walk around and hand them out to employees or random people flying out. That is so nice. One of the line cutters came up 20 minutes after close, and we had 30 hot sandwiches left. She asked if she could still order food, and I said, we were closed. She says, what are you gonna do with those sandwiches? I replied, that's up to my manager. She told me I better find out fast because her break was almost over. I was counting my till and had just finished it. I told her I couldn't ask until I finished counting my till. I recounted it 6 times until she left. Then I bagged up all the sandwiches and handed them out to every single other airport employee I could find with a smile like I was Santa Claus. Here you go. That was not a bad impression of Santa Claus. Take that, you line-cutting jerk. Nobody likes when people get cut in line. That has been instilled in us since kindergarten. When someone blatantly cuts you in a line, it's annoying. You just don't do it. I, 22 female, work at a kiosk in the mall and a 20s male, works at the kiosk right beside ours. I disliked him from the first month I started working there. He's a douchey guy and says a lot of misogynistic things. I usually ignore and don't partake in the conversation, but when it's a joint conversation with my coworkers, who are all men, and I'm talking, if he gets bored or doesn't want to wait till I'm done, he'll face the other guy and stop me halfway so he can talk about whatever he wants. The other guys don't pick up on it or are used to doing this as well, so I completely stopped engaging if he's around. Recently, a new girl started working and he tried to do the same thing to her, and she picked up on it. The very first time he tried to interject 4 times. He actively tried to stop her from talking 4 times and she would not budge. She continued talking to me and our other coworker. At that point, I just decided F him. So now whenever he struts over to our kiosk to talk or he tries to talk to anyone, I interrupt him midway and start a new conversation or pull my coworker into doing a task. Every time, without fail. It's enough to keep me content at work. We also don't let him get a word in when it's just the girl and I full on ignore him if it's just me at the kiosk. I was gonna say, that'd be really annoying. Like, what if you're the only one at the kiosk and he's the only one and you're like next to each other, and I know that you just stand there most of the time. Like mall kiosks, you're just like, oh God, that awkward tension. Ugh. Can you wear headphones at that job? Some light jazz in the background. I use my Deliveroo Plus account, I don't know what that is, at work to get me and my colleagues lunch. Oh my God, is that like a food delivery app? Where? I've never heard of this. Deliveroo? Who then transfers the money to me. This week, I realized that one colleague hasn't sent money for his lunch in 4 months. You're just realizing this? I told him he hadn't, and he replied saying, I should have reminded him. Oh, that's nice. He again ordered lunch with the rest of the group. I told him his total. He said he'd pay later, but didn't. I reminded him 2 days later, and he still didn't send the money for that week's lunch. We're all adults here. I shouldn't have to remind you when someone orders you food and they pay, you pay them back. I realized not only is he not going to pay for previous lunches, he also doesn't care enough to start paying for his lunches either. I created a spreadsheet with everyone on the lunch run's name on it and all the different amounts people owed me. Obviously, everyone else was a 0 or a small amount, and this coworker was owing me just under 150 pounds. I then shared the spreadsheet with my coworkers. My colleague freaked out, and I told him that until he pays his outstanding balance, he won't be allowed to use my account for his orders, and he will need to pay his own delivery charge each and every time. Yeah. He has since said that I'm mistaken on how much he owes, and I've told him I'm quite happy to give him a full cost breakdown. Oh yeah, because you have all your order histories. You could literally give him a spreadsheet of every order, the date, the time. Sir, just pay what you owe. Okay? You should have been doing that from the start. On the night shift, we nap. There's really nothing to do from 1 a.m. to 6 a.m. So you get paid to nap? I always would nap in this one area. Everyone on their shift has their designated spot that they always go to. No one would use that chair because it wasn't reclining correctly. I looked up how to fix it, and it was reclining properly again. The next time I worked, I saw my coworker's bag and blanket on the chair. I asked her when she was leaving the spot, since that's not her normal spot, not even thinking she was trying to sleep there. She goes, I'm watching a movie. I found another spot that night. The following day, the same thing, 3 days straight. I'm like, this girl really took my spot. So before she got in, I removed the cord I fixed it with and put it back in the upright position, and she was already sitting in her old spot. I would come in slightly early every time she worked to claim her old spot. Man, people and their spots. This is so funny. Like, it reminds me of like elementary school when it's like you had a designated spot or this and that. Like the cliques and groups of friends genuinely had their spot. And if you went to their spot, like kids got mad. They're like, that's our spot. That blade of grass is where I sit. The first thing a coworker I normally work nights with does is put a sticky note on the break room saying they're using the room for their break, as in no one else can use it. It's normal on night shifts to take all your breaks in one go and take a nap. Oh, okay. But normally you talk to your coworkers about where everyone's gonna go. This one coworker is the only one who just puts a note on the door calling dibs. After months of kind of weird spots to break, I found my inner petty self. You discovered yourself, like Mulan, looking into the riverbank singing, "Who is that girl I see staring straight back at me?" Now I make sure to get to work 30 minutes early, and if that coworker is on, I put a note on the door exactly like the ones they always did. It brings me great satisfaction to see them approach the break room, sticky note in hand, to then just walk away. And I sleep very well indeed. Wow, I feel like they need to get you guys a better setup here, because you all deserve sleep, right? I worked this one job, and it was just a retail job, you guys. But they had a really cool spot. And in the break room, it was a really cool break room, but they also had nap rooms with like a bed in it. Like it's like a cot. It's not like a king size bed, but they have like sleep rooms for their staff to sleep on their breaks. And like it had like when you locked the door, it would say like vacant or not vacant. It was and it would get dark, and they had an alarm clock in there so that you could set an alarm for when your break's done. It was crazy. I never used it because I can't nap, but I respected it. The second I clocked in, my boss, let's call her Kay, pulled me aside for a serious talk. She handed me a write-up discussing salary with other employees. I am paid a good bit more than others, being cross-trained and having relevant experience and education to back it up. The issue is, I'm paid more than the assistant manager, and she's pissed that I make $2 more than her and has 8 years with the company. Well, I've only been here 2 months? Okay, well, yeah, I might be a little bit too. My boss says it's a final notice. Next time is termination as per company rules. I pointed out this is in violation of not one, but 2 federal laws, and she retorted, "This is a right to work state. I'll fire you for chewing gum. Don't press it." Okay, well, that's not right. I got home, did a little research, and found the exact place to help me, the National Labor Relations Board. I talked to an agent who helped me through the process of filing a claim and helped me upload both the pieces of incriminating evidence, both with corporate approval, and my manager's signed confession of retaliation and corporate policy in clear violation of federal law. They can't really defend themselves when they drafted the incriminating paperwork to intimidate me. The real kicker is the penalty. On top of restitution to employees affected, me, they also lose government contracts. This hurts my job extra hard as a pharmacy. As a pharmacy tech, I know for a fact that 50+% of our money is from Medicare and Medicaid programs that we will lose permanently. I already got a job lined up and I was planning on jumping ship the day my new one started, but I couldn't be happier to burn the ship down on the way out. Oh, that's a lot. That was a very aggressive revenge. Very aggressive revenge. I mean, you can't threaten to fire someone for chewing gum, but sometimes you sign a contract where you actually can't discuss your pay with other employees. And if you get caught, you broke your contract. Water break. You guys too. I know you got your beverage with you because you had one about 5 minutes ago. I don't think I ever see anyone being like, I drink water too. Even though I'd be reminding you every day that you should hydrate. Everyone's like, I have tea, I have coffee, I have alcohol. I used to work in a warehouse where one other girl and I worked in one area together, except I did all the work while she played on her phone all day in between, occasionally yelling at me for stuff I didn't do. I'd hustled to get the job done and I cleaned up on recognition from supervisors who saw me hustling. She tried to blow it off when she got busted for slacking, but never did clean up her act. She even occasionally had the nerve to tell me to calm down because I work fast and she looked bad in comparison, by just standing there. Well, maybe you shouldn't just stand there. Eventually, I found another job, but I made a point of not bothering to mention this girl when my last day was. I knew she was going to be unpleasantly surprised by suddenly having to take over my job the next day, so I set her up to have the worst first day ever. I used up all the good packing tape and left out only the identical looking stuff that tore easily. I hid the good tape gun and left out the identical looking but broken one, and I unhooked the UPS scale. When you unplug the scale, you have to restart the computer. And I changed the password. Resetting the password was a massive headache because IT was terrible and inevitably took a couple of hours to do anything. The whole thing took less than 30 seconds and I sabotaged at least half a day for her. I later learned she got fired for not doing her job. I was gonna say, she probably didn't last very long because she didn't want to work from day one. So having to actually have no choice because you don't have someone there to do all the work. Yeah, she wouldn't survive that. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same spot. We'll meet here. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy. See ya.